So you practice your speech, but you still go blank. Well, same here, bruh. But I know the title says the science behind why and how to feel. I don't like science. So here's these pictures which explain the structure I've used and which I've basically stolen and extracted from the best TED Talks, the best speakers, and the best Toastmasters out there to help me say some speeches in front of 2,000 people a couple of times, win some standing ovations, and win some public speaking competitions. So this stuff works. It's not science, and it's pretty easy to understand. So the reason why we mess up in our speeches and we go blank and we forget our lines and, or you know how it goes, is because we have this whole speech here, and what it is it's our words, yes, that came from us, yes, but it was under ideal and perfect circumstances, right? We sat down in a comfy little chair, optimal temperature, we felt good, we sat down with our little laptop and we were all comfy and we wrote down the words and we had time and we were alone and we might have gotten tips from AI and from Google and from our friends and family, right? So it was a bunch of minds and a bunch of IQ combined under perfect circumstances with a bunch of time to think about it and to process it and to filter it out and to put the best words we can possibly say on paper. All right? The best words we think we could say, we put on the paper, okay? But the fact is that we're not speaking in those same conditions, environments, circumstances. So eventually, yes, that is the best representation of our words. What's ultimately going to happen if we don't know that perfectly bar for bar? What's going to happen is we'll crack, and our level of competence, or the level at which we speak at, and our natural words and our natural understanding of what we're talking about will be exposed. Okay, so what we're doing to ourselves is, I feel as though this almost stems from the fact that this almost stems entirely from the fact that we do not know what is important about our speech and our words. So we're basically going about our speech and memorizing everything because we think it's all important, which might come from the fact that we don't actually fully understand maybe speech writing or the topic we're speaking about. There's only about a few. What we're doing is we're studying, but we're going and highlighting the whole page. And so we're memorizing the whole thing. And then when the test comes, we're going to spit out the whole thing, but we don't remember the whole thing. But essentially, there's just a few important parts to a speech which we actually have to go and memorize and know. And then the rest, all the explanation, all the linking sentences, all the other stuff in between, that we can go and try and understand, that we can go and explain for ourselves, that, but there's only a few points which we actually have to study and memorize and know. So what I'm getting at with that is that puts a lot of mental pressure on us to go and memorize everything. And so when we go and say our speech, there's a lot of pressure from the environment, from the people, from the judgment of the crowd, from the unfamiliar faces, from us. Oh, wait, was it the, or oh, what was the article before the word phenomenon or something? And now we're stressing, and then there's nerves, and then we're anxious, and we have adrenaline, and we're bouncing up and down, and we can't control our feet. And so everything is kind of stacking up against us. So there's this mental pressure to remember this. And then there's this environmental pressure, which comes from the situation, the high stakes, the one chance to own it, to never let it go. Oh, you better lose yourself in the moment. Okay, you get the idea. So there's a lot of pressure, which is compounding and stacking up, and now we're going to crack. So in order to make this a bit easier for us, in order to just be a lot more natural with our speaking, we have this framework. So before I even explain what this is, why it's good, why it works, and how to use it, let me tell you why it's better. It is better because it allows us to memorize less and to speak more. Because when we have a full script, we memorize it bar for bar, word for word, and we basically just become a news reporter, an anchor. You know when they have the camera there and at the back there's that screen which just moves down and it's a bunch of words they have to read? Good morning, New Jersey. Welcome back to Sunday Night News Telegraphy or something. The weather for this upcoming week is rainy with a side of meatballs. You know what I'm saying? So it's not real and authentic. We're not actually speaking, we're just reciting. And so we're not actually speaking to anyone. And I want to make it very clear that what our audience benefits from our speech is not necessarily the words we're saying or the importance of it or how well it's written or whatever. The only thing they can actually get from our speech is when we speak to them. And it's important to understand that when we have stories, not everyone resonates with a certain story of ours. Not everyone resonates with a certain realization or a lesson of ours. But certain people will. And when they hear that and they relate to that, they'll feel as though they're being spoken to. And so in our conversation, we just naturally talk. But when we go and we memorize everything, we just completely destroy all of our natural speaking skills. Any little bit of personality or authenticity or humor we might have just becomes covered up and plastered with that memorization. So we want to remove that a little bit and just give ourselves a little bit of a structure and framework to guide us a bit. But then we use our natural authenticity and our natural charm and our natural speaking ability to go and actually speak to our audience, to go and actually connect to the right people, and to go and actually achieve good results with our speech. Does that make sense? So what is this framework which I've been edging? There's basically only 3, 4, 5 real important points of a speech. I want to say, so I always begin with a story. At the end of a story is always a deep realization. In that moment, I realized what hurt most was not letting go of my big brother, but it was never getting the chance to say goodbye. Now that my big brother is no longer with us, he's very much alive, we just continue to be far apart. I realize that that part of the story is very, very important, right? Because I speak for 4 minutes and I'm funny and I'm building up to this one moment in a story. And at the end, there has to be a realization. So we have one important point there, and maybe another important point in the middle. Winston Churchill's quote, that was one of the speech competitions I had. The topic was Winston Churchill's quote, "Greatness comes with great responsibility." So in the middle, I might say, I do actually agree. Greatness does come with great responsibility. And at the end, another important point might be, no, I disagree now. Greatness does not come with great responsibility. Great responsibility comes with greatness. So those might be the 3 important parts in my speech, right? And so I'm going to go and put them down here. That'll be 1 point. That'll be a second. That'll be the third, right? So that'll be my realization. That'll be the quote that I agree with. And that'll be, I actually disagree, okay? Those are my 3 important parts. And so those I actually have to go and study and memorize. But then we just go and bridge everything together. So, and we use a few bullet points to guide us and to riff off of. So, yeah, realization. Now I realize growing up, I needed my big brother, okay, or something like that. What was it? What hurt the most was not letting go of my big brother, but it was never getting a chance to say goodbye. That's a whole story. I don't need the entire story because I already know the story. I wrote it myself. I lived it. I experienced it. I know what parts should be funny, what parts should be slower, what parts should hurt more. I can just say a few phrases like water polo game, when my brother scores a goal. Oh yeah, and then the crowd goes wild and everyone's like, woo, 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 yeah, go whoever scored that goal. And I just like, that's my brother, yo, that's my brother. I love my big brother, Fast forward, a year later, he's leaving at the airport, blah, blah, blah. Maybe the funny part would be vodka, everyone's just on the glass panel looking to see if they'll notice the liter of vodka in his suitcase, ha, ha, ha. Realization, right? With water polo leaving vodka, I can know immediately what I have to talk about. Okay. And then I know the realization because I studied it. And so what this does is it just opens this massive doorway for our natural speaking, our natural charm, our natural authenticity, our humor. If we have it, if we're funny, if we're Dave Chappelle, our little Trevor Noah, we want to bring it all out so that we can actually speak to our audience. All right. So when we go and speak, we're actually publicly speaking, not just reciting and memorizing. So we do have a safety net with these bullet points, and we do know what we have to hit. But we can just go out there and speak. That is the end goal here. And if we can go and say a joke and be ourselves and not feel pressure to mold ourselves to a certain leader, masculine, concrete dictatorial archetype, and we can actually go and be ourselves, and people can connect to that, the right people. All right. And yes, there's a good structure to good speaking, right? Body language, we pause, we laugh, we say forward movement, open torso, open chest, open palms, good morning. That's objectively good public speaking. So when people see that, objectively, most of them will like it. But it's only through this speaking, through this framework, that we can go and actually connect to the right people. So that is why, that is how we don't go blank, because there's a lot less pressure on us to go and memorize. There's only a few points we actually have to know, and the rest is just simply speaking, for that matter. Then linking these two, right? Realization, quote, agree. Maybe I needed my brother growing up. Important, would have been important to have him there. Something like that, right? There's a few points to guide me. And then, I don't know what the speech was exactly. Now I know. Some other example, you know what I'm saying? So there's a few points to guide us along our path, a bridge, if you will. But what these points are, you can see inside them, there is a times 10, a times 100, a times 1,000. So it's that point links to there, the middle one links to there, and the third one links to there. If you've ever played a video game and there's a boss fight, and it's a massive boss and you have this little gun, and you have to shoot him now, it's kind of unfair for you. So what the game developers do is they go and they put these critical points on the boss, right? So it's a big monster like this, and then he has these big gangly eyes, and so they put a little critical point, like a blue highlighted circle on his face. And if you shoot that critical marker, you do double damage or something. So it's kind of helping you out. And then it changes. Once you shoot it enough times, it changes. And then it's his heart. So it's his heart. And then you start shooting it a bunch of times, you do extra damage, and then it changes. And then now it's his neck or something. So you go shoot it, and then boom. So those points, those critical markers, they do more damage against the boss. So that's what I'm getting at with here. Those are our critical points. Those are the important points in our speech. If we can go and hit them, we can save ammunition in our gun. By ammunition, I mean brain power. We don't have to go and memorize a bunch of stuff. We can just go and actually play the game and run around and shoot the boss and win and have fun. We don't have to go and mine resources and go and make our own bullets and craft them and find them and stuff, right? So we save brain power, and then we can actually do more damage, because essentially what we have is we're contrasting natural speaking ability here. So it will be natural conversation, natural talking, natural human, whatever. And then randomly, out of nowhere, a very, very well-constructed, rhetorically good, maybe poetically good, some sentence that rhymes and has good structure, and it just sounds like, that's a bar, that's some poetry, that's profound, how did you think of that? So we have natural conversation, and then out of nowhere, poof, a big bar of a big diamond. Looks like an ice cream, but it's a diamond, okay? And then people are like, this guy's good, how did he just naturally think of that? But we actually sit down and wrote that and thought about it and constructed this very well written sentence and realization, but it's just y'all didn't expect it because we was chill about it. Then we go back to more conversation, bullet points to guide us, speaking to our people, and out of nowhere, boom, another diamond. You know what? I do agree with Winston Churchill, because looking back now, I realize this isn't, you know what I mean? So it's another really well-constructed point. And we go back to our natural speaking ability, linking these two, and then again, the finale, poof. In the end, the true test is not the speech a leader delivers. It's whether the leader delivers on the speech. Poof! Nuke. That's a nuke, boy. Radioactive, radioactive. Poof, poof. Dust cloud. That's a nuke. So we're contrasting with this natural speaking ability with these random nukes of eloquence and amazing rhetoric and eloquence. Did I say eloquence? I don't know. That's how you do it. We hit harder. There's less pressure on us to go memorize a bunch of stuff. The important points appear even more important through that contrast. People understand it better because we can actually go and speak to them, and there can actually be a bit more humor, a bit more pattern interrupts, a bit more natural flow and speaking and fluidity in our speeches. Now, if we naturally suck at speaking and we say and but and and all this stuff, we can use this to guide us, but then we can also just use that memorization framework a bit to maybe just build a bit more security in our linking sentences, in our bullet points. Does that make sense? So that's the structure I use, and I've gotten from some of the best speakers out there, and it works. So that's how we kind of practice less almost, and we can just speak better in a nutshell. So I hope you got some value from this. I hope you got some insight from it. If you have any questions, please do feel free to ask me in the comments or check the link in the description, because there I can actually give you some personalized advice and it's free. So good luck. Try implement this in your public speaking and take care.